Welcome to the Core of Success podcast. Entrepreneurship, success, health, life. Big things are in your future. And now, your hosts, Sean and Mike.
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 20.
20!
Core of Success podcast. How about that?
I can't believe it. I couldn't believe we got to 2.
We set a goal when we started this. We said we're going to do 20 by the end of the year. And look at us. Here we are, 20.
Unbelievable. I love it, man.
Yep. So if you've been listening or if you've joined us somewhere along the way, thank you very much for being with us. If you like what you're hearing, leave us a review. If you don't like what you're hearing, leave us a review. We are here to learn, here to grow, here to share some thoughts. So Mike, what's going on over there?
Man, it's a great time of year. You know, the end of the year is here. End of the decade is here as we go into 2020. It's crazy. And look, man, this has really been a joy for me personally to be, to have the podcast, to have the opportunity to share what we've learned over the years. And man, I'm hoping we've helped some people out there for sure, bottom line. But overall, I just really enjoyed it. But I'm most importantly hope that we help some folks out here for sure.
Well, it's funny you say that, Mike. I mean, I'll tell you a little story.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I shared this on LinkedIn. So if anybody follows us on both places, you may have heard this. But so I was at the gym the one morning and I'm up. It was my off day from running. So I like to use the big escalator, step mill. Those days. And I was up there. I like it because I'm really up high. I can look around the gym, And the young lady who runs the morning, she monitors the floor there in the morning. She came over and she said, "Hey, I've been listening to your podcast." And I looked around like, "What? Excuse me?" I said,
"You talking to me?"
I thought she was kidding me. And she goes, "No, I really like it. I've been learning a lot and I've just really been enjoying it." And she said, "I actually even take notes and go back and listen again and take more notes." I was floored by that,
Yeah, very cool.
Like I said on LinkedIn, we didn't start this to become famous podcasters or anything. We did it because we thought we had something to share. And if it could help somebody, like you just said, that's great. And, her saying that to me was actually confirmation of that. Wow, we actually are, providing some value to at least somebody. And she said to me, and I said to her, "Is there anything you'd like us to talk about? Anything you'd like to hear about?" And she actually suggested today's topic to me. And that topic, and when she said it to me, I was like, holy cow. I'm like, that is a great topic.
Beautiful.
And that topic is the topic of burnout.
Yeah, it's something I think that, look, at some point in your life or somebody that's going through it. And this is the timing on this, I think, is really fantastic because, look, this is a joyous time of year, as we know, fantastic, but also going to be very, very stressful for many reasons, which we'll talk about, right? And folks can really feel overwhelmed and burned out right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting. Last week we spoke about aging and, Dr. Denise, who was on, said that she said it's a topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about in terms of aging. And I think this is another one. This is a topic that falls along the lines of mental health. Yeah. And it's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. But before we go on, I just want to be super clear, and I'm sure people know this, but you nor I are doctors. We are not health professionals, and we are not here to give health advice.
I am not even close to being a doctor.
Yeah, you barely know how to go to a doctor. Much less
although I almost played one on TV, but that's another story, but go ahead.
Yeah, so we're not here to give health advice. We're here to share our opinions on the matter, our experiences on the matter. But if this is something that you feel, if you're listening, you feel that you are dealing with and you need professional help, we encourage you to seek that. This is not that. This is just a discussion two guys are having about a topic that is relevant. So I just want to be clear on that. And
hey, look, if we can help somebody even recognize some of the symptoms of burnout and they go and seek professional counsel, that would be fantastic. Right?
That would be great. And we've played a small part, and that's fantastic.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting to note on this that it is a mental health issue of the topic of burnout, and having the courage to speak about it if you're dealing with this is fantastic. And if this encourages you to do that, as you said, then that would be great. But why don't we jump right in
Yeah.
and just talk about it? So what is burnout? From your experience, what is burnout?
I think it's the simplest way to look at it is just when you feel overwhelmed, stressed, um, from a standpoint as far as your hormones are concerned. Really looking at it that way from almost the physiological standpoint is your cortisol levels are really high, which that's your flight or fight hormone, right? So you get super overwhelmed, you get super stressed out for any number of reasons, or it could be all combined culmination of those factors. Stress levels high, cortisol levels high, therefore testosterone level goes low. You just feel really, really bad, and you're just like, man, I don't know how to get out of it. You're overwhelmed, you're irritable. People are like, what the hell's wrong with you? Energy levels down. And so it can be work related, it can be family related. There's a whole bunch of things, but I think really the simple is just you feel overwhelmed and just super stressed out. Like everything gets on your nerves. People are walking on eggshells around you, and you're just not a fun person either by yourself or amongst others. Not too many.
I don't know if you heard the first part of the podcast, but we said we're not doctors, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
here you are trying to throw out cortisol and
well, look, that's what it
you
is,
trying
right?
to be all fancy over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, let's it's a simple show.
Yeah.
So, but you are absolutely correct in all those things. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that it's an emotional state, right? And it's caused by the prolonged stress in there. And it's hallmarked by being overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of, if you put it down in one word, it's exhaustion.
Yes.
Right? People are exhausted. They're physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted. And it's caused by that prolonged stress. And some of the things that you mentioned there are definitely symptoms of it, which we'll get into in a little bit as well. But I think what's important to note about this too is that, a lot of the talk this time of year is about goal setting, heading into the new year, the things you're going to accomplish. And that's all great. But this topic, I think, precedes that one, right? If you're feeling overwhelmed, as you said, and you have all these things going on with you, it's probably pretty difficult to think about the next steps, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, look, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling trapped or that lack of energy, it's really hard to get motivated to write your goals down and, to really just to sit down and do that, you need to have your energy. You need to feel really good about yourself, your situation. But if you're feeling burned out, if you're feeling down, it's like, oh man, maybe don't see a way out. So yeah, very, very challenging as others are making their New Year's resolutions and doing stuff. You may feel like, well, what's the point? I don't know. Or even could be, look, I put down New Year's resolutions last year. Maybe it was even losing weight or something, and I didn't follow through. So what's the point there too? So
yeah. So with all that being said, and all the problems that burnout brings, like why does it happen? Like from your experience, why do you think people do get burned out?
I think it's a couple things, but for me personally, it's always been where I feel trapped, or you just feel like you're not growing, you're not learning, you're not moving towards something. So that's kind of where it got with me anyway, where I started to feel burned out, where I just didn't feel like I was making progress, whatever that is. It happened to me when I was working at the Department of Corrections. We had a regime change, and look, they put me on like a desk job, and as you probably heard on the podcast, like I'm a pretty high energy guy. Sitting at a desk for 8 to 10 hours a day, not so much. I got to move around, I got to talk to people, that was a big part of it, as far as how it happened. But I think really it wasn't the job itself, it was just the lack of progress, the lack of growth. I just feel like I was stuck,
Yeah,
So
I mean, if we've talked about on previous episodes, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. There's no standing still. There's no being in the same spot. So you could definitely see that. If you feel that you're not progressing, you could start to feel a little bit burnt out by your situation. And again, you mentioned that word trapped and hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I think that happens is you get overwhelmed because you're unable to meet the demands that you feel that are on you all the time. as entrepreneurs, as parents, and all these things, you have things coming at you from all angles, right? And it's constant. It's 24 hours a day if you let it, and it's pretty easy to get there. But I always say to people that being overwhelmed is really a state of mind, right? But when the mind is probably the most powerful thing that we have. So if your mind is overwhelmed, you're going to eventually start to feel burnt out, because it's just inevitable. If you let these things progress, if you don't talk about them, if you don't recognize them. So I think that the answer as to why it happens is right. You're exactly right. You're not feeling that you're moving forward, or in many senses, you're actually feel that you're moving backwards. And that combination definitely leads you to this sense of burnout that we talked about.
Yeah.
So I think by your definition and your statement there, you are admitting, you're saying, yeah, this has happened to me.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely did. And, again, it was more of the lack of growth and just like, man, it's like I did for a bit, lost a lot of my zest, a lot of enthusiasm for what I was doing, just because I let others do that to me. Now, it was a great learning experience where I said, you know what? I'll never, ever let that happen again. But when you're deep in it, it's hard to recognize that sometimes. And again, it was something that was forced upon me, and I kind of probably felt a little bit sorry for myself. It wasn't fair and all these types of things, right? That sometimes can happen in life. Everything isn't fair, as we know. And, it really took me just to say, look, that's it. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. And, it goes down to two, we'll talk about as well as some specific tips on how to get out of it. But I also, a big part of it was who I was talking to. I was talking to other people that were very negative. I was talking to other people that felt they were done unfairly. So for me, it was like a big pity party. Like, oh my God, we're trapped. We're never going to get out of here. So I think that was a huge part of it for me, for sure. As far as not only the job, what I was doing, but actually who I was talking to on a daily basis, man. That was like freaking poison.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that all the time, and we didn't make this up, but you generally become the sum of the people that you hang around the most.
Hell yeah.
And if you're feeling a little bit down and you hang around other people that are down, guess what? You're probably not coming up. So I think that's a key thing in this process. But I think it's good that you admit it, that, hey, yeah, I've felt this way, because I think everybody's felt this way at some point. And if someone says to you, I've never get burnt out, I have all this energy, I'm this or that, I don't really know about that,
Yeah.
But people may look at somebody like you and, oh, he's high up all the time, he's this and that. Well, no, he's a human being, and you're going to get these things. And that's what I want people to hear today, is it's very normal if you're feeling this. I can tell you, people say to me, oh, you seem so even keeled, even energy. You seem like nothing really gets to you. Look, I'm human too. Things get to me all the time, man. Things get to me. I have stuff coming at me all day long. And in many senses, I'm a sounding board for every complaint that goes on in this business. And you have to, in some senses, have a solution for all those things. And of course that can get to you. And I think that really that first step is that, admitting, yep, I am feeling this way, or I have felt this way. And here's what I can tell you. If you felt this way and you've gotten out of it with some of the tips that we said before, don't be surprised if you feel this way again at some point, because the thing that's not changing is, it's not changing that you are a human being. And one of the key things about burnout that a lot of people don't realize is that it's not something that just happens, right? You don't wake up and say, oh, I'm burnt out. It creeps up on you a little by little, little by little. And if you're not recognizing the signs and symptoms of it, you're going to end up in a much deeper state of burnout. So I think it's really important for people to listen to some of these symptoms that we're going to talk about in a second, realize that it's very normal, but this will creep up on you if you don't address them.
Yeah, I mean, I know folks that have dealt with this, and there's many different ways you can deal with it, right? Some of the unhealthy ways is, you start drinking, maybe lack of sleep, your diet goes to shit, all these types of things that are not healthy behaviors. But at the end of the day, it almost comes down to, like Dr. Denise talked about last week, it's about choices too, right? So it's our choice eventually on how people, how we're going to feel when we wake up. It's our choice. It's our choice as far as what we're going to eat. If we're going to drink enough water, if we're not going to drink, 6 monsters, to get you through the day. There's obviously some issues there and something's going on and you are burnt out. You're just kind of masking it by other things. But yeah, man, if you continue to make a choice to say, look, you know what, I'm not where I want to be right now, slow down a little bit, take a deep breath, but then get back to some of those healthy choices, that will really help you for sure. It helped me.
It does, and I think the caution there with this type of information is that when you're in it,
Yeah.
it's easy. When you're not in it, it's easy. Yeah, do some of these things that we're going to talk about. Eat healthy and da, da, da. When you're
Yeah.
in it, though, it's like, ooh, that's the last
Yeah.
thing people want to be doing. So
Yeah.
it's like I think we can oversimplify the process for people. But I want to, before we get there, I want to talk about how do you know you're there, right?
Mm.
How do you know that you are experiencing some of the effects of burnout? So give us a symptom that you felt when you felt that you were in this. What was something that you experienced?
I think it's the lack of motivation to do things that you normally love to do. Like for me, it was, I love training. I love working out. I love exercising. And even as much as I love that, when I was going through this situation, I lost that enthusiasm. I lost even the love to work out. Like it was a chore for me to go work out. And that was, I didn't understand it at the time. It was weird because it had, to me, it had nothing to do with the other thing. I'm like, look, yeah, I'm going to go work it out. I'm going to go hit the heavy bag. You know, I hate the people that I'm working around, or I hate what's happened to me. But it actually had the opposite effect on me, where it was like, man, I was drained. I didn't have the energy to do it, you know? So,
Yeah, so that's definitely an emotional symptom, right? You're
yeah.
losing motivation for the things that you love to do. And the nice thing about that as a symptom is it's pretty easy to identify. Wow, I love this thing and I don't feel like it right now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
again, we're not saying today, we're saying prolonged, right?
For sure.
So it's definitely a physical manifestation or an emotional manifestation of it. Some physical ones are you're tired, right? I know
Yeah.
when I go through it, I feel lack of energy. I'm
Yep.
tired as I go
Big
through
time.
this. And, you know, the problem with that is that you can lower your immune system, right? As this
Yeah.
starts to manifest physically, your immune system can come down, and that's when you're going to get sick. So
Mm.
it's definitely
Number one.
be very cautious of the physical manifestations of this thing. But what's another thing that you felt was going on with you?
You know, for me, it was sometimes hard to sleep. That was
Hmm.
a big thing, you know, and I'm usually a pretty good sleeper. I actually too, like you kind of draw in, like sometimes you want to engage in like, you know, like to hang out with your family and the social things that I love to do, that you kind of lose the zest for. I lost that part of it. And you just really feel, like you said too, you feel like shit, man. Your energy level isn't there. Your fire isn't there. You know, there's something, just something's not right. You kind of know it, right? I think definitely, I totally agree with what you're saying as far as your immune system gets compromised big time, because that's typically when you're more prone to getting sick and colds and things. And you're just in it, man. Just life kind of sucks right there for a bit, for sure.
Yeah, and you're not going to know that your immune system is
No,
compromised,
you get
but it's
sick.
something that's going on behind the scenes because you're going through all of this. And I think another big one, you know, for me, I find that I procrastinate. Like if I'm going through the
Hmm.
throes of being burnt out on something, I'll procrastinate. I'll look for distractions from
Hmm.
what I know I'm supposed to be doing
Yep.
because I don't feel like doing that thing because I'm burnt out of it, right? So
Yeah.
I'll
Good point.
procrastinate. Let me just do this instead because we try to fool ourselves. Oh no, I'm okay. I have the energy to do this. Well, you're not doing the important things at that point, and that's a good sign. And people to watch for. If you find yourself, you know, that you're pretty disciplined to get the most important things done, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you start to see yourself wavering and say, "Let me do this or let me do that instead."
Mhm.
Again, could be temporary, but you're looking at the overall trend. You start to see that in yourself. Could be a sign that you're burnt out.
Yeah, and usually if someone is very reliable, you know, when you give them a task or, you know, you have a deadline, I mean, they hit it, right? They're on it. They're even early. And then, like you said, all of a sudden now they're slipping a little bit. Their work isn't 100%. It's not their best work. They're going through some stuff for sure, you know. I think that's a big sign to look for in fellow colleagues, your employees for sure. You know,
Yeah,
that's something's not right.
as leaders, we have to be aware of this as well, because
Yes.
as you say, you're looking for changes in behavior in your team, because our job is, it's not to fix it, but it's our job to recognize it.
Yes.
So we have to be able to recognize it ourselves. And if you're a leader, recognize it in others. And even if you're not a leader, just a good human being, you notice some of these things, it's worth talking about it. So, you know, you can be burnt out in some areas of your life, but not in others, right?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, your work life could be awesome and your family life could be really challenging. Sometimes you have we put these expectations on ourselves about, being the number one dad in the world and what you perceive as that. If you're working, if you're an entrepreneur like us, it's tough sometimes. You have to say no to some family things, even though we don't want to, obviously, but for the betterment of your family, for the betterment of the company. Sometimes you have to make those tough choices. So I think that's another part as far as the family, you're stressed. You just don't feel like you're putting enough time in, quality time, I should say, with your family. So it could be that, as far as relationships are concerned, could be that as well. So not just work, but stressful relationships. I think we've been through some of those too. It all affects you, I think, as a person. I mean, I don't believe you can have one part of your life that's fantastic and another part of life that sucks. It all kind of affects, it all kind of intertwines for sure. But you can sometimes hopefully pinpoint, well, this is an area that I'm struggling in. So let me address that. What's causing me to feel this way in that point?
Yeah, it's, you definitely have these areas. It's an interesting statement you make where you can't have an area that's good and areas that suck. Because, like, for me, I don't miss my 5 a.m. workout, right?
Yeah.
At least 6 days a week. I don't miss that. And I
Yeah.
don't get burnt out of it, right? A lot
Yeah.
of people do, right? I know, I talk to some of the folks at the gym, you see them, they're not there, and they just tell you, oh man, I'm just feeling a little burnt out. I needed a break. Cool. But I find it, definitely you could see it at work or you could see it at home. And I think it's a caution. You have to know yourself. Like, you may be like, oh, if I'm down in one area, I'm down in all. But other people, like me, can be like, oh, I'm not burnt out because I'm working out 6 days a week. Well, no, you're
Good
actually
point.
burnt out in this area. And again, it just goes to knowing yourself in
Yeah,
these areas.
it's true.
Because as I said, one of the key hallmarks of this is it does creep up on you,
Mm.
and we can trick ourselves, and that's something I had to learn for me personally, because there were times I definitely get burnt out. Look, I've been doing this entrepreneur thing for 20 years. That's a
Right.
long time. And I get that, and, the family life, all these things, they can get to you. But I always said, well, I'm working out all the time, so I'm good. But wait, hold
Mm.
on. These other areas are slipping for me personally. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I had to become aware of that. So I think starting with like a good self inventory of what are your normal routines and habits may be really helpful for people, because you will start to understand when one of these areas is slipping, or as you said, sometimes you'll just know that kind of everything's in that little lower than it should be level. Maybe it's time to take a look at some things.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're just not at 100%. You're just not running you're not at your best.
Yeah.
And I think when you get real with yourself and say, look, man, I can do better. And for me, it's really too, it goes back to, like, we talk about learning and always wanting to learn, always being that, we have that joy of moving forward, of learning, of progressing, of winning. And I think is then, even if you start to accept, well, it's okay if I don't win today, or if you start accepting mediocrity, you
Mm.
don't you don't have those same expectations. And again, it could be someone else recognizing that, a spouse or a fellow employee, hopefully not your boss,
Mm.
but somebody can say, hey man, like, what's going on? But even if it is your boss and they're coming at you from a standpoint of, look, I understand you're going through something here. Why is that? And really ask why, and let's try to get you help, or get you helped out. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
you
that's
definitely.
it's a
Mhm.
great one you said there about accepting mediocrity,
Yeah,
because for yourself you might not. Now I have these high standards and this and that, but you could see that in leadership, right? I know some of the folks who listen to this are leaders or other
sure.
entrepreneurs. You could see that, like, some of the things, wow, I hold a really high standard here, but you know what? They're not, that's all right this time. They didn't do the calls, or it's all
Yeah.
right that we made those couple of mistakes. It's okay. I don't want to deal with that right now. That's a good sign that you need to take a step back, because if you really have high standards, those are non-negotiable, right? And the fact that, as you said, you start to accept that mediocrity, whether yourself or in others as a leader, is probably a sign that you need to take a look at some things. So it's a good learning point for sure. So when you talk about all this stuff, right, we talk about the key things that we've said so far is number one, that it's normal, right? It's very normal. Everybody experiences it. And, just because you've experienced once and gotten through it, don't think you're immune to it. This isn't the chicken pox. It could happen again, which is why it's really important to understand the signs and symptoms of it. And it's also really important to understand that this creeps up. Again, this is not a cold that you just wake up, sick today. Because everybody has a down day, right? That's normal as well. But it's this prolonged state of having these down days that's really going to be classified as the burnout. And that's really where the detrimental effects can come in, because it is prolonged. So if you've noticed some of these signs and symptoms, and that's really the biggest key, is to be able to recognize them, what do you do? Right? So let's talk about in general, and then maybe some specifics if you are burnt out on your workouts or your nutrition or any of those things. But in general, speak, what do you think? Like, what's one of the top things you should do if you recognize you're having some of these things, these feelings?
Well, for me, it really comes down to, like, you're looking at it as you just kind of get quiet. And I know it sounds very simple, but just kind of get quiet. And what I like to do is look at it and say, okay, what's really important to me, and really get disciplined and really think, okay, what is important? Because there's so many things, there's so many areas where you say yes, 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 but okay, what's really important? And I think it really comes down to me is the gratitude. I'm thankful for, even though you're going through some stuff, like, I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful that I can go work out. I'm thankful that I do feel good, or I'm thankful that I am gonna get better. I'm not in the hospital. Wherever you are, you have that level of gratitude. I think it really starts to change your mind, because that's all it is. It's just a mind shift, really, right? And if you can really start to have that, and again, I think, like we've talked about on many of these podcasts, is what's your purpose, man? Like, what are you really looking to do today? What can you do today, right now, to win? What's the purpose? And once you have that back and you say, okay, this is my purpose, even though you may not be like I said, with my example, working the job I was at, I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, but I said, you know what, man, I'm going to continue to do whatever it is to be the best, to stand out, to be noticed, to help out. I think for me, it was helping others and coming in with that attitude that, you know what, no one's going to beat me, and I'm going to turn this around. That really was the key for me.
Yeah. So if you go back to episode 11 in the Core of Success, is where we talked about gratitude. And I think it's a great one if you can get there, and just finding something simple at first, because again, a lot of these things that we're saying sound really good, but if you're really down in it, right, you're really burnt out, it's tough to wake up and say, I'm going to win today. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to do it right. And it's great. These are good sound bites that we're giving, and there's different levels of this, but I want anybody listening, you have to recognize that, right? It's not always that easy. Sometimes it is, but gratitude is something I think everybody can get their hands around. And I'm glad that you said that, because maybe you're just grateful that your eyes open today, right?
Yeah.
That's a start. And you got out of bed and you brushed your teeth, whatever that is. Starting to stack some of those little pieces of gratitude can start to lift you out slowly, because just like you don't get into burnout overnight, you're not going to get out of it overnight. No. And take steps to be able to do that. So I think those are some great tips that you gave there. But the other one I would say is, don't be afraid to talk to somebody about it. Like you said, you'd get quiet with some yourself and do that. And self-reflection is good, but for some people that may not be good, right? It'll get them deeper into it, depending on what voice they're listening to in their own head. So don't be afraid to talk to people about it, coming up and saying, you know what, I'm really struggling in this area a little bit. It takes guts, it takes courage, but hopefully everybody has someone close enough to them that they can start to do it. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. And I think that's important for people to know too. As we said many times today, it's very normal. So don't be embarrassed about it. Don't be afraid to talk to people about just a little bit of what you're feeling, whether it be a professional or just be a friend or a spouse or a colleague, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think too, just to chime in real quick on that, but be careful on that. Like I went back to the point that I use is who you're talking to. Because if you're not talking to the right people or positive people, there's three types of people, I believe, right? There's the positive people. Hey, Sean, everything's going to be fine, man. Don't worry about it. Come on, let's go. You can do it. There's the folks that can also, be your friend and want to help you, but also challenge you a little bit too, which I think is very positive. Like, hey, man, you can do it, but what's really holding you back? Is it, to really question it a little bit, not just the rah rah, but the question, okay, what's really holding you back? And then the third, which is what you definitely try to avoid is, yeah, you're right, man. This sucks. Life sucks. It's what's the point? It's never going to be better. So talking to people 100%, but be really cognizant and be alert about, okay, who am I talking to? Are these some people that are going to give me some good advice or get me pumped up, or am I going to feel freaking worse when I get down here, right?
For
So
sure. And sometimes it's helpful to just let them know what you need. Sometimes, look, I don't
yeah,
want to hear your rah-rah bullshit. I don't want to
right,
hear
yeah,
everything's going to be okay. I don't want to hear everything sucks. I just want you to listen.
yeah,
And is that okay? And you're right, because that it's no different than the voice in your own head, right? Depending on what that advice is or the feedback you're getting, whether it be to yourself or from someone else, it can help or it can hurt. The other thing I've found, though, in talking to folks is sometimes you actually end up helping them because they're
yeah,
afraid to say it, right?
right,
If you go to somebody and say, I'm feeling this way, and oh wow, so I've been feeling that way too, and then you can talk through it. But it is, you have to know, as you said, who you're speaking to, and be aware of, if it's taking you in the right direction or actually making things worse. So I think that's really important. But the other thing that you said that I completely agree with is remembering why, right? And we've talked about that several times on the podcast here, but go back to what Mike Sancyprian said to us. He said a goal without a defined why is like an empty glass of water. It's not going to get you anywhere. But when you really have that why, and let's say it is, okay, I started working out because I want to have more energy and be more fit for my kids. And then you start to get burnt out on working out because you've been going at 5 in the morning and
mm-hmm.
training hard and so forth. If you come back to that why you started in the first place, a lot of times that'll push you right back through that plateau that you're in. Because sometimes this can just be that it's a plateau that you're feeling. But if you let that happen again and again and again, leads to the burnout. So I think that's really important with all of these areas. Why did you want to start eating better? Why did you want to start working harder? Why did you want to start exercising? Why? And that can really be a game changer. So it's a good one that you said.
Yeah, so
So
you keep asking why. Like, we're saying we change lives from the core. Okay, what does that mean? But really get to that. Is that just the members when we see people using our equipment and they love it and they're getting in better shape and they're feeling healthy. I mean, how much joy does that give you? I mean, 20 some years in the business, right? It's freaking awesome when you see that. You see that. That's the why. Like for me, when I go into a health club, I see people using our equipment. Man, I love that. Or just working out in general. But it's the why is okay. I think it's really, really important that you come back to that. It's a great point.
you have to know what that is for you,
Yeah, man.
because that'll push you back through it. So let's get down to some specifics though. Like if you're feeling these symptoms of being burnt out, okay, you could talk to yourself, or you could talk to other people. You could come back to that why. You could start feeling grateful. What are some other tactics you could do? Like I'll give you one. Sometimes it's rest. Sometimes you just
Yeah,
need physical rest. Because
I
remember,
agree.
we go back to the start of when we talk about what burnout actually is. It's a state of exhaustion, and sometimes you just need that rest. And I would encourage people. And one of the reasons we give unlimited time off here at the Abs Company is that sometimes people just need a day. You just need a rest, whether you're
That's
just
right.
changing your environment or whether you are just sitting on the couch watching Netflix. That is okay. You
Mm-hmm.
can't do it every week. You can't do it,
Uh-huh.
you can do it now and again, but just let your body physically rest and admit to yourself, you know what? I'm tired. That's all right. So that's one I would have for you. What's another one you might have?
For me, it gives me a lot of joy to just be around my kids, man.
Hmm.
Like the joy and their energy, and it's like a lot of folks told me before I had kids. It's like, man, no matter you have the shittiest day at work or whatever happens, when you go home and you see your kids, man, it changes everything. I was like, yeah, it sounds pretty cool, but then, man, it's awesome. You walk in and they don't care about your day. They don't care if you won, you know, they're happy, but they want to tell you about their day, and they're so enthusiastic about a library book or what they did in gym class or what they learned or blah blah blah. To me, that's really things that bring you joy like that. You can't help but feel better. For me,
Yeah, and I think it gives you a new perspective, right? Like you're sitting there feeling down about the things that you're feeling down about, which again is normal. And then your kids are so happy because they read a cool book. It may just be the
yeah,
jolt you need to get you out of it. So I think that's a fantastic one. If you don't have kids, maybe it's your pets. or maybe
Okay.
your friends or whatever, just being around some people that bring you some joy. I think another thing that people can really do tactically is change your routine.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to somebody at the gym and they said, I just been coming in the morning for so long, just feeling burnt by it. Great. Try the afternoons, try the evenings. It doesn't mean you have to stay there. You may find that's a better time for you, or you may find that, that was just a little jolt that you needed, or whether it be you're always eating dinner, same things for dinner, and you're feeling burnt out on the diet plan, nutrition plan you're doing. Good. Go to intermittent fasting. Try keto. Try something different. Just break that routine that you're in, because I think that being in these routines over and over again, and I'm a believer that much of life is routine and that success comes in the details, but sometimes you do need to break that routine just to reset the table, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I also think a great one too is you said change your routine a little bit. Maybe like volunteer. Get involved with something else other than, whatever it is, volunteering to work with kids, help coaching, go back to that, volunteer like at a senior center, just really, because especially if you're feeling really down and kind of sorry for yourself, almost you're just feeling really burnt out, when you go and you see that and you start helping people, and you also see, look, it puts things in perspective too, right? You see people that are a lot worse off or having some real challenges, but they still have a fantastic attitude. They still want to learn. They're still really incredibly, energetic. Man, that's got to pump you up, right? You got to feel better about that, So, you're helping them obviously, but you're helping yourself tremendously too. So I think that's a really good one. Look at some things, because there's always a way, there's always an area, always something that you can do, volunteer, right? That can help them, but also help yourself.
Yeah, I coached youth sports
Yeah.
for 10 years,
There you
and
go.
it was great. When I was coaching football, um,
Mm.
the field where we played, where we practiced every night, there was no cell reception up there.
Yeah, that's
It
right.
was awesome. Those 2 hours are just around these kids, and I coached these kids from kindergarten up until they hit high school. So you just got to know them, and they would just make you laugh. Sometimes they make you pull your hair out. They'd do all these things, but it was just great because it was a reset, and again, different perspective on things. Or, I shared the story a couple of weeks ago with the team. I went and I visited an alpaca farm not
Yeah.
too far here from the office. I mean, like I said, the guy said, look, do you ever want to come here and just volunteer and rake hay and scoop poop? I'm like, awesome, right? Because it's a different perspective, like you said. And,
Absolutely.
and that could just be the thing. And he actually told me stories. They had executives would come out there from time to time and just do that, just to get away from it. Just that little bit of mental break was enough that recharge those batteries. So I think that's a great suggestion. And, being health and fitness professionals, obviously, we are going to tell you to
Yeah.
exercise, right? If you're not exercising, to look at your diet, alcohol intake, so on and so forth, because
Yes.
those things can definitely raise or lower your bar on where your energy is and your enthusiasm, so on and so forth. So I think we would both agree that that is definitely a tactic that you could employ to beat some of this burnout.
I think too, yeah, 100% was definitely on my list of, for sure. Nutrition, the eating, right? But even if you're not a gym person per se, like
Yep.
I always think like the martial arts is a great thing. You go in there, it's mental, physical, you're with a group, like a jujitsu or something like that. But even if you don't go that extreme, you go down to your gym, they have a lot of stuff now is with small group training, so you're working out with a group of people, you make some
Mhm.
friends from all different walks of life, all different fitness levels. So if you're maybe not like the gym guy or gym girl where you're going to walk in, you know what to do, don't be intimidated by that. There's a lot of groups there. You can join in a small group or a large group training, if you will. I know some folks really get into martial arts and then they love that part of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah,
You
when
could
you're
just go
moving,
out and go for a walk, right? Just
yeah,
move.
oh yeah,
Just
moving,
move.
go for a jog, go for
Yeah.
a walk. Yeah, great point. You're right.
But yeah, listen, there's a many ways to do that. But earlier you mentioned the physiological
Yeah,
aspects, and obviously we know that when you move, the endorphins kick in, and that does give you
big
that little
time.
bit of a mental boost, and it may be all you need. Now, if you're feeling burnt out from working out, that's a different story, right? It's like, but
Yeah,
like you said, change the type of workout. If
big
you're
time.
someone who's always on your own, join one of these group training classes, or if you're always someone who goes to the cycle classes, go lift some weights, right? Or even Rachel, the young lady at the gym said, I was thinking maybe I'll just go buy a new outfit and that may motivate me. I'm like 100%. Like when I buy new running sneakers, I can't wait to go hit a run again because I want to see how these things are going to make me faster or whatever. It can really, simple things like that can really make a difference.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up too, because there was a gentleman I was talking to, and he does like construction work, right? He does like man's work, stuff that I can't do.
Right.
And he's like, look, dude, I'm like working out all day at work. So, because we were talking, because he was feeling stressed and he was stressed out a bit. So it's not exercise. I'm working out. I said, but you're really like, that's work. It's still different. Yeah, you're active. Don't get me wrong, but you're not doing it for yourself. There's a difference when you train, when you're working out, it's really for you. It's not the job. So I said, look, if you're doing some of those repetitive tasks like hanging drywall or whatever, look, that's tough work, but you can still work out. You just do something a little bit different. Maybe if it's repetitive light stuff or whatever, you go heavy in the gym. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. But for me, I always say, look, if you love to work out, yeah, you're working out on the job, but it's really not for you. That's still work. So you still need that outlet. So there's a ton of different things that you can do in the gym.
That health side of it
Yes.
definitely can help beat the burnout, so to speak. And the last one that I would suggest, and this I think is really important for especially anybody who's listening who is a business owner, entrepreneur, executive, but anybody in general, it's one simple word, and the word is no.
Yeah.
And it's something I had to learn, through the years.
Right.
I want to say yes to everything. You want to be this person who's here to serve, and you're a leader, and you're doing all these things. But sometimes no is the best thing that you can say, because remember at the start of this, I said it's that feeling of being overwhelmed, or as you said, you're just not making any progress. And sometimes we bring that upon ourselves by trying to say yes to everything and everybody. And no is okay. You don't have to take every meeting. You don't have to take every call. You don't have to take on every project. No is okay. And just refocus on the why, as we talked about, that purpose, the things that are most important, and keep your eye downfield on the goals that you really want to accomplish. And it should help lift you out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I was just listening. It's funny you say that. I just listened to a podcast with Ed Milet, and he said, be careful with your yeses. That's how he phrased it, right?
Great.
Be careful with your yeses. How many people you say yes to? Yes, 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 yes. And before you know it, you're saying no to things that are really important to you.
Yeah,
it's absolutely. Yes to all the other nonsense. It's yes to stuff that maybe could have waited or you should have put off. And you're saying no to really important things, things that are important to you or your company, right? So be careful with your yeses. I love that one.
Yeah, every yes is a no to something else, as they say too, right? So you have to understand that. But, listen, Mike, this I think was a really important topic. I think it's something that isn't spoken about enough, especially in this, alpha world. Everybody's got to, okay, everything's great. And that's just not true. The mental health side is a real issue. And like we said, if it's something that you're dealing with, please seek out professional assistance on it. We're just sharing our insights and opinions on it from a couple of guys who have gone through it in various areas of our lives, and just some things that helped us get through it. And, Mike, 20 episodes in, I think we've learned a lot. Hopefully we've shared a lot, coming to an end of a year, coming to the end of a decade. And I personally cannot wait for what is coming in 2020. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and you talk about gratitude. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do this podcast with you, Sean, and to spread this. Hopefully we got, I know we have some listeners out there. And again, like going back to the very beginning of this podcast and this session today, is hopefully it's helped some people, because I know it's helped me. Even the points that you made, even though we've been friends for 25 years, you made some points like, I never heard you say it. And it's helped us. So hopefully as you're driving in your car, or you're spending time, traveling to some family events or something, if you could pop on the Core of Success podcast, got some tips on there. Awesome. Love it. Thank you.
Agree. It's a constant learning experience for us both. And hopefully, as you said, for anybody who's listening to this. So thank you for listening to us. We will see you in 2020. And until
2020.
And until then, remember, the core of success is you.
Big things.